I escaped to a place where I guess theater was my escape. Theater was my ability to play people that weren't me because I wasn't proud of who I was.
What's going on? Welcome into another episode of the KZ Community Beat. I'm your host, Ross Martinez. In the hot seat this week, I got Deric Kilmer, Director of Peoria's hottest play going right now of In the Heights, and also the Executive Director of Central Illinois Friends. We're going to get to everything. Deric, how are we feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great, and I appreciate you throwing a little Gabriel quote going on in there. The hottest play. I love it. I love it.
Gabe is one of my closest friends since moving out in April. He's got a name drop a few times while I'm on air and also on the podcast. He's just a good man.
Yeah.
Ladies, he's single. Holla. No, he's going to hate me for saying that. I love it. So let's get right into the big thing.
Yeah.
In the Heights, man. Mm-hmm. I went for opening night. Amazing performance. Yeah. I texted you afterwards. Yeah. I put the picture up, and then who's the mutual friend we have on Facebook? She tagged you in the post I put up, like, "Yo, hot show. I loved it." She's like, "You need to interview Deric."
Man,
I said, "Yes, I do."
I think it was it Ruby?
No.
Well, I can't even think now.
Anyways, so many people tagged you, like, you got to talk to
him. Right.
But the hottest play in Peoria.
Yeah.
How's it feel to get that moniker so far?
Right.
It's after
I don't think
week.
it's hit. Right. No. You know what? It feels good. I'll tell you what. I'm proud of everyone in the show and everyone that's involved in the show. This has been an over a year-long process. It has been it's been work, and so I don't take any of it lightly. And so when you say how does it feel that this, to say, oh, this is the hottest show in Peoria? Well, to me, I appreciate that, but at the same time, this is our show, and we all work to get here. And so, yeah, it feels good. It feels good to know that we're getting more of this than what we started with, because when we started, we weren't getting love. Let me tell you. No, we weren't getting love.
You getting fight back on the play coming?
Oh, we got a lot of pushback on starting this show, which I think out of the ashes always comes something good, right?
The Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So why In the Heights, of all the musicals and plays to put your name next to?
Yeah.
What made you land on In the Heights?
Yeah.
And why for Peoria?
I really appreciate that question, because I don't look, I love theater and I love the arts, and I believe that theater is our very first version of social media. It's the way that we get our opinions and truth out to the world when you don't have a normal platform. And so I've always looked at theater as a stage and a platform that all should have access to. And so when In the Heights was being announced and being talked about, not announced, but rumblings of In the Heights possibly happening in Peoria were out and about, and people were saying, hey, there aren't any Hispanic directors, and I don't think we have the ability to do this. And if anybody did step up, it probably would have been whitewashed. And so I kind of inserted myself, and I said, well, that shouldn't be a reason to not do this. You need to actually invite people to your theater. That's part of what being a community theater is. We have to represent our community.
Yeah.
That's when the pushback started to happen, because as a non-Hispanic individual, and I get it, people were reluctant to say, then, yeah, you run with the mantle. And I get that. I actually appreciated that type of pushback, because the reality is, to be a director or to get involved, you have to have done something, right? And so until we open our door and show the people that they're invited in, then we'll never have the opportunity to have Hispanic actors, actresses, and directors, or people who work backstage, right?
I do love that train of thought you had there.
And so it's got to start somewhere. We have to start allowing this stage for people to tell their own story. You can't just continue to shy away from it, and then when you have a Hispanic role in another show, you just whitewash it. And don't get me wrong, the overall goal is to colorblind cast in our future. But there are certain shows that'll never be the case for, that you can't do. Like, for instance, The Color Purple. Right? You can't colorblind cast The Color Purple. You can't colorblind cast In the Heights.
Nope.
You can't colorblind cast, well, you can colorblind cast In the Heights so long that it's ethnically correct, right? And
that would be intriguing to tell it from a different cultural perspective, though, when you think about it.
But as long as it's ethnically correct, right? And so it's about the Hispanic struggle. which I'll put a feather in the cap of the conversation we had on one of our first rehearsals about the difference between nationality and ethnicity that our cast and I had a conversation with on the first rehearsal. But I digress because I want to talk about the why. I mulled this over. I'm telling you, as a non-Hispanic person, I questioned myself on whether I should have done this or not. But at the end of the day, I had to tell myself, it's not about me. This is never going to be, it never was going to be about me. It's about providing a stage. And so from day one, when I started going out and recruiting individuals and getting people that never saw themselves as part of their community theater because they never were invited, or they came to see a show of West Side Story and there were 0 Hispanic people in it.
Which is interesting because Rita Ora.
Right. It's sad, but this is the reality of the situation. This is what was happening in Peoria. And I would hear things on the other end, which was, are there enough of them here? Or, are there enough Mexicans to do this show?
Well, it's not just Mexicans.
Yep. This is the kind of hate and stupidity that was out there. But I also realized that it's colored through drama, and theater people are dramatic, and when it's not about them, they want nothing to do with it. So it's not necessarily rooted in hate. It was rooted in the fact that if I don't have an option to be center stage, if I don't see myself being a part of this, then it's not worth it. And that mindset has to be done, because what I've realized through this process is that the best shows, and you saw the quality of this show.
Yeah.
The best shows are those that have been recruited. The best shows are the ones that when you go out, you don't just cast the same old. You go out and put the work into it. You find the amazingly talented people that reside in your communities that are right here, that have these phenomenal voices, that have these amazing acting abilities, this amazing ability to dance on stage, but have never been given an opportunity. That's the point of community theater, providing a stage to say, hey, you deserve a chance to tell your own story. Hey, you deserve a chance to speak truth. You can have the confidence to stand in front of a group of people and say whatever's on your mind. You know why? Because you're worth it too.
You know what's amazing about that is because when I was seeing the crowd, I leaned over to my friend Ruby. I'm like, it's the nuances for me. Like, it was small little things of how they said the word inútil, or just like the small little back and forth of, I'm the father, this is why I say goes.
Yeah.
But how he got the message across.
Yeah.
And then the struggle of La Abuelita, and then the struggle of the young love of interracial, biracial love. Like, yo, how were you so good with getting small nuances of the culture, being somebody that's on the outside?
So that's the beauty of it all. When you cast things the right way, you don't have to.
Because they just get it.
They already get it. And I mean, don't get me wrong. We talked through this. I learned so much through this process myself, but that's the way it should be. But people just they get it when it's about them. I casted individuals that I saw as that part. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody we had a bunch of people audition, and not everybody made it. Not all Hispanic people made it, right? So doing auditions and saying that this was a show for Hispanic people brought a lot of Hispanic people out. But at that point, once you're at auditions, you had to earn it. And they worked their tails off.
You could tell.
Yeah. And a lot of new people on that stage that have never been a part of this. So we just had these conversations of realism. And you talked about Inutil. We communicated about that over and over. The guy who plays Kevin Rosario. And
he was so good.
He's a cardiologist.
Are you serious?
He's never done a show in his life.
You had me fooled, because there's a moment where I think it's towards the end of the first act where he's talking about like this pain and the struggle of all this, and he's not going to let it go to waste, and the fade of the light goes to somebody else. I forgot what the other transition was, but like facially he got it. He sold me. I'm like, damn, no wonder my dad was mad when I didn't do XYZ. I'm like, son of a...
Yeah, right?
Trauma.
Well, but you have to... he is the most even-keeled guy. And to be able to get him to that point, we had to talk about it over and over again. And at one point, I'm gonna tell a little secret. We were at a rehearsal, and he just wasn't giving me the emotion that I needed. So he said, "I'm gonna say this nicely. Stay away from my daughter." And I go, I stopped the whole rehearsal. I said, "Whoa! Everybody's sitting out there," and his daughter is in the ensemble. I said,
Really?
"Yeah." I said, "Marco, I don't believe you. That to me, that sounds like you're saying it nicely, but you're not supposed to say it nicely." And I said, "Do it again." I'm gonna say this nicely. Stay away from my daughter. I'm like, that's still pretty nice. I said, and so I walked up on stage and I said, "Now tell me to stay away from your daughter." And he goes, "I must say this nicely. Stay away from my daughter." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna keep hanging out with your daughter." And I looked at her and I said, "You want to go out later?" And he goes, "Okay. Stay away from my daughter." And I said, "I'm going to take your daughter out." And you never know. You know, one thing might lead to another. And he goes, "Stay away from my daughter." And I was like, "No, I'm going to hang out with your daughter. And there's nothing you can tell me to not hang out with your daughter, because your daughter's going out with me and I'm not going to bring her home tonight." And he goes, "Stay away from my daughter." And I was like, "Thank you. That is what I need."
That's like an actual scene from a movie where, like, you got the play director trying to get one of your guys, like, "Yo, give me the emotion.
Yeah.
Give me the emotion. All right, here's a real life thing. Come here, baby. Get away from her."
Yeah, exactly.
If you need a Phil, I'm very dramatic, bro. I'll tell you that. I watch a lot of novellas.
I love it.
I'm animated and dramatic.
Should have got you in there.
I'll tell my mom. She'll think I made it. But that's all. Like, who taught you how to bring out that passion of somebody?
Huh.
Or did you already have that going into being a director?
Well, so I've always been. I mean, so first of all, I actually grew up playing sports. I wasn't involved in theater or music. That came later in life.
How'd you transition into that?
Yeah. So in junior college, I decided that I was done playing baseball, and I was kind of just playing around in a practice room, and because I sang a little bit, and I was in there singing and kind of plunking away on the piano, and never had lessons, anything like that. And this old man popped his head in the practice room and said, "Son," his name was Prince DeRoe. Said, "Son,
DeRoe.
Yeah, you need to come and audition for my Timeless Voices at ICC."
He just glee you up.
Yeah,
he gleed you up. All right, Finn.
And I know, right? And I said, "All right," and I went and auditioned, and it ended up giving me a full ride at ICC. And I was there for a couple years, and I loved it so much. Part of that scholarship was you had to get involved in the community, in which I went and auditioned, and I was Kaniki in Greece at East Light Theater. And so that was my first time ever doing anything. Oh, yeah.
What? I grew up watching Grease Lightning.
Well. but yeah, and then I ended up getting so involved in music. I taught myself how to read music, started playing the drums, and I went to Drake University for my bachelor's degree, which paid for a lot of my bachelor's degree by singing, and we started touring, and I started getting involved in shows that way, and I like to learn. I like to learn. I'm kind of a nerd, and I was surrounded by really good people, and I'm naturally take in things, and so it's not only craft of the arts, it's craft of real life. And so the reality of theater is that it should be real. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's fiction, right? And there's shows that are meant to make you happy and laugh and da 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 da. But those are because those are real too. And if you can't elude a real message, then you're not doing your job. And so I've learned by getting emotions from real people is how you can elude emotions through theater.
Just through life experience.
Yeah, just by people watching.
It's kind of crazy when you think about like how your life journey kind of takes you.
Yeah.
Baseball player.
Yeah.
And then now in theater.
Yeah.
Now Peoria's hottest play.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep throwing that out there because it's great, man.
Awkward.
You had 2 sold out weekends.
Yeah. Yeah.
From having the constant blowback and well, we don't know if this is right for the community, or if the community's right for it, to having the community. And I was in the crowd Friday. It wasn't just Latinos.
No.
you had the community there.
Yeah.
Black, brown, white, everybody was just there, and they were clapping, and they were excited, and you could tell there were some faces laughing at jokes. I was like, wait, you get that?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? But you guys had this, in the beginning of the play, you said, we speak different languages, but we can still understand, or something like that. I forgot what the opening line was.
It was, we're going to go from Spanish, or English to Spanish, and Espanol to Inglés, but don't worry, because you're still going to understand what we say, because the beautiful thing about humans is that we elude feelings the same, and that we have the same feelings. So even though we may be saying different things, we know what we feel.
Yeah.
We know what we feel.
There have been fathers out there that, you're not dating my daughter. They get that.
Mm-hmm.
There have been kids who have been lost in a journey and not knowing which way to go without disappointing their parents.
Yeah.
I've had that experience.
You know, so I run an LGBTQ plus organization called Central Illinois Friends. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've noticed is that people want to do good, and people want to love. That's all people want, is to live, love, and be happy. And they want the best for their own, right? They want the best for their kids. They want the best for their families. They want the best for their lovers and parents, etc. And people want to try and do better, but they don't necessarily know how. And so you talk about, I've learned through what I do at work, that, you know, although we received the hateful, some very hateful things, but some very stupid things, I know a lot of that doesn't come from the hatred towards the Hispanic community. It comes from ignorance and fear. And we have to realize that. And I'm going to be honest with you, to sit them in a theater, these non-Hispanic individuals who may not quite understand, and have them relate to character after character, alluding the same emotions they do in their own life, realizing that, oh my God, this is the same reason why my family came here from whatever country, or this is the same way I feel about my daughter, this is the same way I feel about my abuela, or this is the same way I feel about this or that, or that's powerful. Those small little nuances and those small little connections, that's how we get over this hatred. That's how, when someone starts to say something bigoted at a bar and somebody just watched this said, you know what, I think you're a little off. I think you're a little wrong. Yeah. You know, I don't think that way.
It starts with knowledge, imparting
Correct.
some type of ethos and pathos upon somebody where they can take themselves out their own shoes and hear a different perspective. Yeah. And I think you guys did a very effective way with the play. Yeah. Play musical. Which one is it?
Musical.
Musical.
Yep. It's anything. If it's on stage with music, it's a musical.
Okay. So,
but if there's no singing, it's a play.
Play. Okay. Because I grew up. I'm from Chicago. Yeah. We were talking about. I used to go down to Shakespeare Theater all the time, which is different. Yeah. It's completely different. But just to see performers do their thing. Yeah. Kind of get lost in the performance. There were moments I saw in the Heights where your lead actor was completely lost in it, and you could tell he was on beat. His facial fear. Your lead was amazing, man. Yeah. How did you?
Yeah, he was phenomenal, and he's played the part before, and so that helps, right? So when you come in and you really start to jive with the part, you can't jive until you know all the words. You can't jive until you know all your blocking. You can't jive. You can try to jive, but to really mold and get into that character and to get lost, those words have to become second nature.
Live the part, live the gimmick.
Yeah, and you want to be careful with that, because it can really have a psychological hold of you. I've had this where I've played a part where I was on stage from the very beginning to the end, and I left feeling just down. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was living the part too much, right? So there's a different way of connecting, right? A method acting, if you will.
Like Shallow Bluff.
Yeah.
I heard he's a method actor.
Yeah, or Heath Ledger, and look what happened, right? So that's a real thing. And so, but it's got to come second nature. And when it becomes second nature, live theater is so beautiful in the fact that things are different every night. Even though we're saying the same words, trying to do the same thing, it's different every night. Things happen. Props fall. Props break. Things break. Things don't work the way they should. An instrumentalist is off. your mic shuts off and the band can't hear you. The amps come off and you can't hear the band. You can't hear each other. You name anything that happens. Phones are going off in the audience. Somebody's standing up. I've had a show where someone's having a heart attack during a number, and we have to figure out what to do, right? Like, there's all of this stuff can happen around you, and the only way you can get through it is if it's second nature. And he has had that ability to come in. It's second nature to him. Yeah. He knows his stuff, and you really, In the Heights would not be as good if he wasn't our anchor, because he is almost the narrator of the show that ties in all the characters around him.
His role most definitely does.
And I mean, without him, you don't feel the way you do about Abuela.
No.
Without him, you don't feel the way you do about Vanessa.
Vanessa was amazing. How'd you guys find her?
Well, so Sheridan is a anchor at WMBD.
I did read that. I was like, oh, look, fellow reporter, what's up?
Yeah. We had one of her fellow reporters, Mr. Matthews at WMBD.
Yeah.
Durante. And Brian Blank's a good friend of mine, know her, and was really pushing her to come and audition for the show. And so I'm really glad she did.
She's really good. There's another one where I saw her getting lost in the gimmick also.
Amazing.
Was this her first performance?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
17 Dave told me that. And I was like, no.
17 people on that stage had never been on that in musical theater before.
What other ones?
So she was one of them. So Sheridan, our abuela, which was
that was first time.
It was her first time ever.
She got me to tear up. So let her know she did a great job.
Yeah, she's doing amazing.
Yeah.
Our Marco is the guy. Kevin Rosario.
Oh yeah.
So that's his first time ever doing a show.
What?
Yeah.
All these cats were really well.
Graffiti Pete.
Graffiti.
Yep. And Sonny.
I like how when he came into the shop, he's like, "Yo, I got this to sell."
Right,
like, get out of here!
Get out of here! Right?
But like that's something small nuance. Like I didn't grow up in New York, but I grew up in Chicago, where I'd have the corner store.
Yeah.
Where you would have the cat coming in trying to piddle paddle something real quick, and you got the nuance of it. And I'm like, what?
So we did have a lot of conversations about that too. So even the little parts often get ignored, but there's so much conversation with that. So I'm just going to explain Graffiti Pete. And for those who don't know In the Heights, it's a very small role, but it's a pivotal role throughout the show. And so we sat down and we chatted, and I said, Graffiti Pete starts the show. He comes out and he's graffitiing on the building. That starts the whole show. No words are exchanged. He comes out, he dances, he tags the store, he gets run off. And that's the next thing that's said is lights up in Washington Heights on the break of day. So I sat down and I said, "Why are you out there?" I don't know. I said, "Well, what's the point of you being out there? Like, what do you think's happening?" Well, it's lights up, so that they're starting their day. So everybody's waking up to start their day. And I said, well, so why is Graffiti P out there so early? Why is he up there before everyone else? And I said, I want you to come back with an idea. And he came back with this story of, I probably was up partying all night. I haven't gone to sleep yet. Everybody else is waking up. I'm coming home. And he's a couch surfer, and he doesn't have a home, right? So he's going to crash at his buddies, and so he's just tagging up a store before he heads out, and he probably ran off to go to sleep when everybody else, maybe he went to a park bench and fell asleep, while everybody else was getting up for their day to start work.
It's a small nuance.
And that small little nuance, like that back story, changes the way he acts when he's in that number.
Because you're starting to live the gimmick of now you have history to this role.
Yeah.
That dictates why they do certain things. Why are you talking this way? Why are you acting this way? Oh, you're couch surfing. So you're just getting by. So now your language and the way your body language is, now you're on survivor mode.
Yep.
So now that changes. Oh, I'm a nerd about all this stuff, man.
I love it.
But this is great. What's another role that I loved? The hairdresser. She
her
and her daughter in it.
Well, so it wasn't her daughter, but it's like her daughter, right?
Oh, okay,
So it's oh my goodness. I've had a couple days off and I'm already. It's
I forgot the names, but
it's Carla and Daniela.
Yeah.
And Daniela. Now Sandra is playing the part of Daniela, and Julia plays the part of Carla, and both of them are
big personalities,
but also
man.
seasoned vets. So they've done theater around here.
Oh, okay. Because I'm about to say, if those were their first times,
no, they've done theater. Yeah,
had me tricked, man.
Yeah. No, they did fantastic, and they sunk their claws into this role. You know, when Julia auditioned, from the moment she walked into that audition room, I was like, "That's Carla."
You just knew.
That's Carla. She's gonna be.
What was
great.
that? What was the first line she had where she misspoke
Yeah.
a word, and the entire audience busted out laughing? It was just a small line.
Your mother's malfunction.
Yeah.
Dysfunction.
Yeah. But she was everybody in the crowd just started giggling.
Yeah.
And like I love those small things. Like
Yeah.
you have your big seasoned roles, but the small little nuance things of her kind of being a little like, ha, 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 ha,
Yeah.
but so effective, man.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was dope. Like I like what you guys were able to put together on that the night that I went. Now let's talk about the final number, man. How'd you get that together?
Yeah,
because that was a send off.
The finale. Well, to believe it or not, that's our last number we directed, or that I blocked. So like, so that number, because I mean it's all about the music in that number. It's all about the words, and so that was actually very little work, because I wanted them to come on and separately, because at that point they're all in their own little world, right? The song starts. And you think, I mean, this is going to come out after the show, right?
Yeah, this will come out next Wednesday.
All right.
Which will be,
this will be after the show, so I'm not going to, no spoilers, but...
if you haven't watched it by now,
right.
Fast forward.
Right. Usnavi, you think Usnavi is leaving at the beginning of that song. And so I actually put a lot of work from Usnavi leaving and to the point he decides to stay. That was where the most work was, because that's the drama, right? After that, they're all coming back, and their last words are, "I'm home."
Yeah.
There's not much to go. You're home. And I wanted that to come out. I could have made that a big dance number. I could have made them go in and out and all that. I wanted them all to come out and stand there, because there's nowhere else to go, because they're home.
In the Heights?
They're in the Heights. They can dream of past generation, their past land. They can dream about Dominican Republic and Cuba and Puerto Rico and Chile and etc. But this is their home. They're home. And that is the most important part of the entire show. We all do it. I'm from a small town in Illinois, and I wanted to go. I want to go. I got to get out of here. We all want to get out. But sometimes we have to realize home is where you make it. I know. I think of Joe Dirt too. But
no, but I'm smirking and laughing at that, because I'm Chicago born and raised. Born and raised, 32 years. I come out here in a year. I've made this place feel like home.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been in radio since 2008. Wow. Now I feel like I'm finally getting traction.
Yeah.
So this place is becoming a home.
I love
so
that.
like I'm kind of.
You're vibing with that.
I feel it. Yeah.
I love it.
Because home is where you do make it. It's where you make your friends, make your love, make your money, make your passion, all of it.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
Speaking of, I'm going to backtrack on something,
if
you don't mind, because I said I'm going to put a feather in that one, or a pin in it. I did say feather, but I meant pin.
I like feather because I wear fedoras,
all right,
and it makes a
go.
lot of sense. So if you need like a 1920s Mexican, I got you, brother. I got the fedora ready.
I love it. So during one of our rehearsals, one of our first rehearsals, everybody's sitting down, and I said, I want you all to introduce yourselves, and is this your first show? Is this not your first show? Why? And I want you to mention why you came out to do this show. And it took a while, because we got a big cast, but it was good. And I started right from the get-go. I said, this is what people are saying about you.
Ooh.
This is what the theater community is saying about you. This is what has been said to me, and I need you to know this is happening. I am not going to hide anything from you from this moment forward. We are being completely frank and upfront with each other. I understand if this becomes too much, but you have to know everything before you get yourself into this. But my job is to make sure that none of you fail. My job is to make sure that I can provide you a stage and put the best versions of you out there, and then I'm going to get out of your way because I know that you all have the potential to do it phenomenally.
You pop a beard on.
Yeah, and I want to get out of your way. This is your show. This is your story. I'm just going to make sure I'm here to make sure that it doesn't fall backwards, right? And so this was we got to rely on each other. And I said, now I've heard some of the rumblings about ethnicity and race and nationality and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, we got to address that right now. So In the Heights is about Cubans and Puerto Ricans. And there's a line in there that says, my mother's from Chile and Dominica Rican, I'm Dominica Rican, da-da-da-da-da-da, right? But these characters, we have to play the actual nationality that they're from. And we need to make up the percentage, not the percentage, but we need to make up diversity as you would see in Washington Heights if we want the real story to get out, right? And one guy in the cast raised their hand and said, yeah, but, you got a lot of Mexicans in this. So.
Hey, hello.
Right. And I said, yes, and I want to address that. Because here's the reality where we live. First and foremost, you can be Hispanic white, you can be Hispanic black, you can be Hispanic native, you can be Hispanic biracial, you can be Hispanic other, you can be Hispanic Asian, you can be Hispanic da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
You can also be non-Hispanic, all those things.
And have a big brown heart.
Right. But the judgment is, if I see you and I hear you may pass, first of all. You may pass as non-Hispanic white. You may pass as non-Hispanic. But I could also see you and hear your language, and you immediately become a what in a non-Hispanic Midwesterner's mind?
Automatically, you're Mexican.
You're a Mexican.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Whether you're from Argentina
or
Chile or Cuba or Dominican Republic, and therefore we got to stop this charade of Mexico versus Cuba versus Dominican Republic versus Panama versus Argentina. This stops right now. At that door, we are proud of who we are and where we're from. We are proud to be doing what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we are telling people that the Hispanic peoples are alive and well in Peoria. It is thriving. The culture is beautiful, doing amazing things, and you're just as much as part of this community as anybody else.
Hell yeah. I'm excited now.
Yeah, right.
You got me hyped, brother.
And so that was our message coming in from the get-go, is that, hey, in the Heights, yeah, we're flying proudly the Cuban, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rican flags, but this is the Hispanic struggle.
Yeah. I think you did a great job with it, man.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at it through the lens of just being a Latino, not just a Mexican, but as a Latino, we have a lot of shared struggles, a lot of shared crosses that we all carry. We never want to displease the mother or the father.
Right.
That is a shared commonality throughout. Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Mexicanos, everybody. We all have that struggle of being lost with trying to chase a goal that we want, but then here's something we really want to do.
It's the struggle of being lower socioeconomic, trying to make it in a capitalistic society.
You put it that way. That's why you're the director, man. So what was the thing that made you fall in love with theater?
That's a very emotional question for me.
I got emotions for you, brother.
I'm gonna try not to go deep down into that rabbit hole, okay? But I will say there were things that happened in my past, and being someone who is a gay man in a town where he was outed and not accepted, and his home was turned ugly at a certain point. I escaped to a place where I guess theater was my escape. Theater was my ability to play people that weren't me because I wasn't proud of who I was. Theater was a way for me to live someone else's truth and life because mine's not what I pictured it would ever be. And so theater kind of became an outlet and a way to hide from my reality, which I know that's unique to kind of say because I'm so into the fact that it should be real. It took a complete 180 for me later in life because obviously I learned to love myself, and I've learned to I'm working on myself every day and trying to be proud of myself every day because it's still a struggle.
Of course.
But theater was legitimately an escape for me to be proud of a piece of me, I guess.
It makes sense with why you're very passionate about finding that why or purpose in the roles, because it seems like from the outside looking in, you ran to a place to feel some acceptance.
Right.
And later in life, you found out that the only way to feel accepted in that role is to find the acceptance within you to play that role. And now it also makes sense with, you said you're also the executive director of Central Illinois Friends, where you're teaching, helping other people find that acceptance. Because we were talking a little bit off the mic, so we're kind of bringing this full circle now.
Yeah.
Of like, you've had your trauma in your life, which is leading to an amazing career within the arts, but then you have your social activism on the side, or is that your main gig?
That is my main gig, yep. So Central Illinois Friends is my main gig.
So you have two facets in your life right now, kind of the yin and yang, where you're teaching people acceptance.
Right.
Like, take me through that mentally.
Right.
Like, that's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean, it's fighting stigma, too. We fight a lot of stigma, and that stigma isn't just from it's internal, it's external, and that internal, you got to get rid of that stigma internally in order to accept yourself. And so I like to look at it as the fight is against stigma more than anything, right? And so, so backtrack a little bit. I'm not at Central Illinois Friends if I wouldn't have directed Rent the Musical. So I directed Rent the Musical, which is about the AIDS epidemic in New York City. Did some case studies in New York City and in Copenhagen, Denmark, but that's a story for another day.
Copenhagen, Denmark, you just told me left
right. But I learned what was happening today, and why weren't we talking the fact that you equals you when people who are living with HIV can become undetectable, which means there's zero chance of transmission. Why isn't anyone talking about this? Why aren't we talking about the ability to get to zero new diagnoses? Like, this is insane to me. Why are we still living a life of rent when it doesn't have to be that way? And so I became an advocate, and I started working with, I found Central Illinois Friends, and I did a fundraiser for them, and I got involved. And the next thing I know, they're asking me to apply to be their executive director. At the time, we were just doing services for people living with HIV, and those were very scaled back. And so the first thing we really did was bolster those services to really be the friends of those who needed it the most, to help people living with HIV not just live, but thrive, and really bolster what that means to live with HIV in the 15-county radius that we serve. We provide transportation, rent, utilities, etc.
15 counties?
15 counties, yep. And
you're a good size.
At that time, though, there was only 2 employees. And then we started a completely free sexual health clinic, because how do you end diagnosis? Education, testing, etc. And we did that so well. 0 ID needed, 0 insurance needed. And I kind of mentioned this to you before we started, which was we learned who the people who had the largest barriers to accessing care locally was, and that was the Hispanic population, our people of color, communities of color, the communities that maybe English isn't their first language, and the LGBTQ plus communities. Those are the communities that have the largest barriers. And so now we're growing into becoming this LGBTQ plus community center, because equitable healthcare says that you have to stand up and go a little further for those who need it the most. I mean, that's what Central Illinois Friends, the backbone of Central Illinois Friends, has been since 1990 in Peoria. Since then, we've opened up a place in Bloomington, so we have a clinic in Bloomington now. And we're looking at a new building here in Peoria, so I'm pretty excited.
Is that why you were pointing out buildings to me earlier?
That's right.
We're not going to talk about the buildings. We're like, ooh, look at that. That's empty now. And I was wondering why. Because I'm a Chicagoan, bro.
Yeah.
So, like, immediately when someone tells me something, I'm like, why is he talking?
Yeah.
Should have known. But that's amazing, though, to see the growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you have growth in both facets of your life right now.
Right.
You have the Central Illinois friends. You're growing. You're building. And then now you're bringing a whole new element with the musical.
Right.
So, Deric, the individual, how does it feel from going to being kind of lost and not having your own acceptance to doing so much for the community on two different fronts?
Yeah. This is what makes me happy, right? I don't know. I guess I don't know. That's a hard question.
I asked the good ones. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because you have to think about it, man.
Because
it feels like you're walking in your light or your purpose. I guess
right
is the phrase that I love saying.
Yeah.
Like you're walking in your purpose of what you're supposed to be doing in this world.
I wish somebody would have gave me a chance with my potential, and I feel like that is what I do every day. Is I see these individuals who they have so much potential, and they could be doing so many things, just like this entire city. Peoria has so much potential, but we're getting in our own way, or we don't see it. We're too busy. Can I cuss on this podcast?
Why not?
We're too busy shitting on ourselves and getting down on ourselves, and instead of just being real and understanding that it's okay to not be all of everything at all times, and failure is okay so long that we fail forward. Failure's not okay if we don't learn our lessons. And people who don't learn their lessons refuse to get any better because they don't think they can.
Yeah.
They don't see that's an option. And so I think that's more than anything. I hate the mindset of it's always been done this way, or if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's always been, ever since I was a kid, I've hated that mindset. And I think it's because that's the mindset that has traditionally gotten my way of growth. And so it pleases me to always look at people with that mindset and say, told you so. But it also pleases me to know that people who are just good people have a shot that may not have existed if I didn't show them the mirror.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I found in my journeys of having conversation, like we were talking off mic, where I feel like there's a beauty to the art of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
There's a beauty to communication with comprehension, not sitting here with a list of 25 questions and just taking you down, but authentically getting to know you.
Right.
So in this short amount of time,
right.
we don't really know each other.
No, we don't.
But just hearing your journey lightly and seeing the beauty of, okay, this is where I was, this is where I ran for comfort, and look what I'm doing to provide comfort.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Right. Well,
and before we head out, 2 questions. If anybody would like to get more information of Central Illinois Friends, where can they go for that?
You can go to friendsofcentralillinois.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at CI Friends 1990.
All right.
Yeah.
Last question here. When everything's said and done, this podcast is how I collect people's stories, the journeys. And so often we don't really get the opportunity to ask people what they want out of life. So what do you want the community to learn or know about Deric that they may not know when everything is said and done? You wasn't ready.
I wasn't. You do ask hard questions. Ask me that one more time.
So, from your entire journey, everything you've been through, everything you're doing now, things you want to accomplish later in life, if somebody was to listen to your story, what do you want them to walk away with?
Liberation.
Ooh.
I think true love liberates. It's not, as Maya Angelou says, love is not binding. And I think that we have never had those conversations with one another. We think that love means that you're here with me, and that you have to be with me, and that we got to fight for this and we got to fight for that, and some things. I mean, don't get me wrong. you do have to fight in life, but it's knowing what battles to fight and what battles not to, because true love is liberation. True love liberates, whether you're here with me or not, whether you're in Australia or you're in Peoria, whether you
Copenhagen
are right, Copenhagen, Denmark, whether you are married to me or we're just friends. You have to allow others to live their lives. And we sometimes let control and fear get in the way of love. And if we all just let go and liberate one another, we'd all be much happier.
I like that. You wrapped that up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Were you media trained?
No.
Just like your performers. First time I see it. I like
That's
it, man.
right. That's right.
So In the Heights is an amazing musical. Thank you so much for stopping by, man. I really enjoyed this. We might have to do this again.
Yeah. Over a beer, too.
Ooh, I like beer.
Or sangria, is that what you
Sangria?
like? Right?
Yeah, shout out to Gabe. I like how Gabe is starting to be the common denominator with anybody I meet in Peoria. They just know him.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't know, his nickname is Mr. Sunshine, and yes, he is available. He's going to hate me for that again. All right, that has been another episode of the KZ Community Beat. I'm Ross Martinez, your host. This week, Gabe. He just his smile popped in my head. I'm like, this dude. Deric Kilmer, director of In the Heights here in Peoria, also the executive director of Central Illinois Friends. Thank you so much for stopping in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Without further ado, go check out all the other episodes and tell your mom I said hi. All right, bye.
Hey.